Dreaming of Switzerland. In this episode, we're talking iconic scenic trains, unforgettable mountain views, and how to plan the ultimate Swiss rail adventure.
Welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is founder of the global travel planning website, Tracy Collins. Each week, Tracy is joined by expert guests as she takes you on a journey to destinations around the world, sharing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, and practical tips to help you plan your next adventure. Join us as we explore everywhere from bustling cities to remote landscapes, uncover cultural treasures, and discover the best ways to make your travel dreams a reality.
Hi everybody and welcome to this week's edition of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. This week I am joined by my friend Carolyn, who is the Swiss expert. Carolyn has been on the podcast twice before, episode 6 to talk all things Swiss, and in episode 61 to talk about Lucerne. We did a deep dive. But this episode we are talking about really what a lot of people go to Switzerland for, and that is the scenic train journeys and mountain excursions, which there are many. So Carolyn's here to talk all about that. But before we go into that, Carolyn, would you like to, as always, just give us a quick introduction and tell us what you do and where people can find you, because you're also a podcaster, so that would be great to mention.
I am. Well, thank you very much, Tracy, for having me back. It's always good to be on your podcast, so thank you. As you said, my name is Carolyn. I'm the founder of Holidays to Switzerland, which is a website, a podcast and an online community that helps travellers plan their trip to Switzerland. And I've been fortunate to be a regular visitor to Switzerland for over 35 years now. And I don't know, every time I visit, I fall in love with it more every time. So I think for me, it's the gorgeous scenery that makes it such an incredible destination to visit. And just when you think you've seen the most stunning view, and then you go around another corner and there's another one waiting for you. So I love sharing everything about Switzerland with my readers on the website and listeners of the podcast. And whenever I get the chance to talk about Switzerland, I'm up for it.
Well, I don't mind talking about Switzerland because, you know, it's a place that I've lived, and it's a place that my mum lived for quite a number of years. So it's a country that I've been visited quite a few times. I actually used to live in France, but on Lake Geneva, facing over to Switzerland. So I was there for quite a while before moving I lived in Basel for a while, and my parents were just outside Zurich. So Switzerland it's a beautiful, beautiful country to visit, absolutely. And one of the best ways to get around Switzerland, in fact, the only way that I've got around Switzerland, unless I was in my stepdad's car and he was driving, was, because I don't drive when I can help it anywhere in Europe, is to take the train. And there's some just amazing scenic train journeys. So why do you think they're such a highlight for visitors, including those train journeys into their itinerary?
Well, I think the name kind of says it, you know.
Yeah.
The scenic trains, it's all about the scenery and the varied landscapes that you pass through, because that often surprises people. Some people expect that it's all going to be high mountain peaks, but that's not always the case. But also with the trains, you know, they're just so comfortable and they're so reliable. They work like a Swiss clock, and the trains are very modern, they're clean, they're punctual, and it's also so relaxing because no one needs to drive and no one needs to navigate. Everyone travelling can just sit back and enjoy the ride.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty of train travel anywhere. We always find it's like whoever you're with, you can sit back and enjoy the journey. Like Doug always said, sometimes it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, and train travel certainly encapsulates that. Now, you know, when somebody's planning a trip to Switzerland, would you say it makes sense to plan an itinerary around trains?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, there's even an itinerary called the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland that combines rides on the 5 sort of famous panoramic trains. So you get to ride on all of those trains on this itinerary and you see all the key highlights over 8 days. So that is one way that you can plan your itinerary around the trains. But I always encourage people to spend more than 8 days if they can. You don't want to be rushing, and you want to have the chance to really, spend some time in the beautiful destinations that you're visiting, and being able to get between destinations by a scenic train is, just fantastic.
Oh, you can't get better than that, can you? I mean, is there anything that you think people should know about when they're kind of choosing some of the specific routes? I mean, I know there are some quite famous kind of scenic train journeys that I guess could get booked up. So maybe that's something that people need to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely. And also I think just considering like the start and finish points of the particular route as well, and working out if that fits in with your itinerary. Because if you've only got a few days to spend in Switzerland, perhaps you want to go into Switzerland at the end of a river cruise that finishes in Basel, or you've only got a few days before you move on to another European destination. You might only be in the northern part of Switzerland, like Zurich or Basel, or even into central Switzerland. So if you're desperate to do the Glacier Express ride, which connects Zermatt and St. Moritz, that may not actually, be a good fit for your itinerary. So I think knowing where each of these journeys starts and finishes is definitely one thing that you need to consider. And as you said, some of them do book out well in advance, and perhaps I might talk about that a little bit later, what people need to know about booking those trains and making sure they get their seats.
Okay, perfect. Now, I have lots of favourite train journeys, as well as some of the scenic mountain railways that I love to take. One of my favourite actually is to go from Geneva to Zurich. I love that trip. So I'm sure that you have your favourites. So if you had to choose, which would be the ones that you would always choose when it comes to actual train journeys rather than the kind of mountain excursions? Are there any particular kind of journeys that you go, I just absolutely love those?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every train ride in Switzerland has some kind of amazing view. And really, I've got too many favourites to name them all, but there are two that I'll mention, because these ones I could just do over and over again. And I usually do every time I go to Switzerland, I'm usually on these two trains. So they are definitely, ones that I can highly recommend. And the first of those is the Lucerne Interlaken Express. It's one of the panoramic train rides, and it connects two very popular Swiss destinations. And on the way, it passes by 5 lakes, numerous waterfalls, and it crosses over a mountain pass. So it's got everything. And it only takes 2 hours. So it's not like you're on the train, for a long time, but you're seeing so much fantastic scenery. And the other one, it's much shorter. It's only 9 minutes. And this train travels between Lauterbrunnen and Wengen, which are 2 small villages in the Jungfrau region. And the reason I love this one is because as you leave the station in Lauterbrunnen, you just get the most amazing view of the village, with its steep cliff faces on either side, and you can see the Staubach Falls, which are quite famous. And then the train sort of rises up the mountain, and then you get great views down over the Lauterbrunnen Valley. And then just before you reach Wengen, you've got this amazing view of the 3 mountains, the Eiger, Monk and Jungfrau, right in front of you. And whenever you're on the train, you can just hear everyone gasp as they see this view for the very first time. And it's something you could just see over and over again. You'd never get sick of it.
I'll have to get some photos from you, Carolyn, because I just know people listening are going, I want to see that view. I want to see how gorgeous it is. So we'll put some pictures in the show notes so you can go and check out. I'm sure you've got a visualization of what Carolyn is saying, but I think then having a look at the photo, it is so beautiful Switzerland it is. And there's just, it's one of those places where you really need to make sure that your phone has got plenty of ability to take lots and lots of photos and not get full, because you were going to take so many. There are so many, I would say, train rides that I just love. I also like the Bernina Express. That's a beautiful one. I took my niece for her 21st on that trip, and she absolutely loved it. It was a wonderful journey. So obviously we talked about some of these beautiful train journeys that people can do in Switzerland. Are there common mistakes that travellers make when they're planning some of the scenic train travel when they're into their itinerary?
Yeah. Firstly, I think I'd say taking too much luggage. Not only does having too much luggage or suitcases that are too large make it more difficult just to get around generally, but there's also limited space to store your luggage on the trains. The trains in Switzerland, 90% of the passengers are locals. They use the trains for commuting and just for, short trips and weekends away and whatever. So they don't have a lot of luggage. So the trains aren't designed to, hold heaps and heaps of luggage. And yes, there are luggage racks, but you may need to lift your suitcase up onto the top of the luggage rack, which is at the end of the carriage. So you need to be able to maneuver that and lift that very easily. So definitely don't take too much luggage. Secondly, I think one of the mistakes that people make is not realising that they need to book seat reservations on some of those panoramic trains that we mentioned before. And then they just turn up with a ticket, and then they get on board and there's no seats available. And then the conductor comes along and says, well, sorry, you have to have a seat reservation, so you've got to get off at the next station. So that can be a bit tricky, and a few people do make that mistake. And then also on the topic of those seat reservations is not making the bookings, the reservations, far enough in advance, and then missing out. So the Bernina Express and also the Glacier Express are very, very popular in summer, and they do book out, and they both the bookings for both those trains open at different times. So you need to do a bit of research and work out, okay, when am I able to book the seat reservation for the date I want to travel? And just try and book it as early as you can, so that you do make sure that you get a seat on that train.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Actually, I remember taking that train, and there's a couple sitting next to us, and they hadn't booked the window seat, and the guy was most annoyed about the fact that he didn't get it, and was actually quite unpleasant. But actually, a lot of people, because it stops, people got off the train at different parts. So after a while, there was plenty of space in the carriage for people to move around. But yeah, that's the point. If you want to be beside a window, make sure that you book that window seat, and don't just assume that you're going to get it, because and then don't panic if you don't, because people will get off the train and you can take your photos. But I remember that I was thinking, oh dear. Absolutely. And honestly, traveling by train in Switzerland is always a joy. As you say, the trains are on time, they're clean. They're just always just a wonderful experience to have. And the other thing that you can do in Switzerland, we're talking about train travel, is the mountain excursions. Now there are so many mountain excursions to choose from, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So how would you advise people when it comes to kind of choosing which mountain excursions are right for them?
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, there's just so many to choose from. It's incredible. But I think I'd start by listing the top 2 or 3 choices that you have for each destination you're visiting, and then check the mode of transport. Because if you're like me and you have a fear of heights, a cable car ride might not be the best option for you. So some mountains you can reach by like a cogwheel train or a funicular, so that might be a better option. And then also check what there is to do when you get there. So, perhaps you just want to go for the views and you want a nice, quiet, experience. On the other hand, you might want to do lots of adventure activities, like go on a zip line or ride a mountain scooter, or you're traveling with children and you want to make sure there's a playground when you get there. So working out those sort of things then perhaps, helps you whittle down your wish list perhaps, and helps making your choice easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have favorites now? I know you mentioned, because I know you don't like cable cars, and I really like doing that golden I'm trying to think the name of it now. The golden. That's it, golden round trip from Lucerne back to Lucerne, up Mount Pilatus, and that does involve, you've got the Cogway Railway, and then you've got a large kind of cable car, and then you've got the smaller cable car. I don't know what you call the large one. Is that still?
I think it's called a gondola. Yeah, it's
gondola.
The dragon ride.
That's it. And I've done it a few times. You think I'd remember? And then you go into the smaller cable car. But I know you've done that trip. You did that one and you were okay, or did you have to prep yourself?
It's taken a long time, but like I said at the start, I've been travelling to Switzerland for over 35 years. But it's really only in the last 2 or 3 years, and perhaps since COVID actually, that I've decided, right, I don't want to miss out on all these amazing experiences. So I'm just going to have to, be brave and put up with it. So I do voluntarily take cable car rides now. And the one that you were talking about there, to Mount Pilatus, the golden round trip. So yes, during summer, usually from the end of April to early November, a cogwheel train goes up one side of the mountain. So you can do that round trip using the cogwheel train and the cable car. But if you're travelling at other times of the year, so outside of April to early November, you can only get up and down by cable car. So, that's something to consider if you're not a big fan of cable cars. Look at going, usually in the summertime you can access that's when most of the cogwheel railways operate.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually about weather, because obviously we kind of expect in the winter that there's going to be a lot of snow. So in general, how does that impact just train travel in Switzerland? And also, how does that impact some of these mountain excursions?
Well, typically general train travel isn't affected at all. And the only one, or there's a couple of the panoramic train rides which don't operate all of winter. The Gotthard Panoramic Express, which connects Lucerne and Lugano, it's only operating during the summer months. And the Glacier Express also has about a 6-week break from about the end of October to mid-December, just when they do maintenance work on the track. But most other trains operate, all the regular trains between cities and towns, they're all operating year-round, no problem at all. When it comes to mountain excursions, yes, some of the mountain railways, like the cogwheel trains and the funiculars, don't operate, but then there are others that do. So, for instance, the cogwheel train that goes up to Jungfraujoch, the top of Europe, that operates 365 days a year, and there are a few others that are operating all year round as well. And again, with the cable cars, they have sort of brief periods in spring and autumn when they're closed for their annual maintenance, but otherwise operating. Most Swiss mountains are ski resorts, so the skiers want to get up there, so that's when the cable cars are very well utilised, as well as in the summer months for people going hiking.
Absolutely. The views, I have to say, you can't beat the views when you've got snow on the mountains. That's my personal favourite. I absolutely, a little bit of snow on the mountains, and it's absolutely stunning. Now, have you got some favourites? Because obviously you've been doing more of these mountain excursions that involve the cable cars, as well as obviously cog railways. Are there ones that you absolutely would say to people? Like, I love Pilatus. Pilatus is probably my favourite, and I've done that a few times. But is there one that you go, you know what, this is the one that I absolutely love the most?
Oh, that is so difficult. And in fact, when I was thinking about this, I've got a list of 5 actually. And then I said to my husband, what what's your favourite mountain excursion in Switzerland? And then he reeled off, about half a dozen as well. So, so there's so many. But if I had to pick just one, I think I would say the excursion to Munliken. So again, this is from Wengen. So that scenic train ride that I mentioned, which you can take up from Lauterbrunnen. When you get to Wengen, to the station there, it's just a couple of minutes walk, and you come to the cable car station, and it's a very short cable car ride. It's only about 5 or 6 minutes. And on this cable car, there's actually an open, like a rooftop balcony that you can stand on if you want to. It's got a barrier around it, so it's perfectly safe. Now, I haven't actually been brave enough to stand on the top of that one, but my husband has. But you have this very short cable car ride, and then you get up to Munliken. And again, you've got the views down over the Lauterbrunnen Valley, and you've got the views to those amazing mountains right in front of you. And it looks like you're so close to them. Like, it's really amazing, the view there. And there's a great walk you can do, which is fairly flat, takes about an hour and a half, and it goes over sort of to the other side of, to the next mountain over, I guess. So it's just I think the views up there are what gets me every time. You can also take a cable car down to the other side of the mountain if you don't want to do that walk, which takes you down to Grindelwald, which is another very popular holiday town in the Jungfrau region. So, if I had to narrow it down to just one, I would say that. But I do have favourites near Zermatt, Lucerne, in the Valais region, and also in Ticino. So, there's something for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. And you've got information on all of those on your website as well. So, we can if you're interested, go and check out Carolyn's website, because she's got information all about those. We'll talk a little bit in a second about, building a Swiss itinerary that includes these. But the elephant in the room, I think, always with Switzerland is the cost. Because it is a pricey destination. It's not a cheap country to visit. So I'm just going to throw this out there. What do you recommend? Like, if people are planning to do some of these train trips, mountain excursions, is there a way that they can save money?
Yes, definitely. And you're right. I mean, buying individual tickets for every train trip that you want to do and every mountain excursion quickly adds up, and you start freaking out when you see how much that costs. So I always recommend that people look at a rail pass. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, with Switzerland, there are so many different rail passes. And this is where it gets so confusing, because they all cover different things or different regions and different mountain excursions. So it can be very difficult, and I've got a couple of resources that help people to determine which rail pass they should buy. But as a general rule, if you buy a rail pass, and let's just assume that you're buying the Swiss Travel Pass, which is one of the most popular, it covers your travel all over the country. So that's on trains, buses, boats, and a couple of the mountain railways as well. It then gives you discounts, up to 50% discount on most other mountain excursions. So you can really save money that way. There are also regional passes, which just cover a particular region, like the Jungfrau region. And often with those regional passes, the mountain excursions are fully included. So in that way, yes, the Swiss or the rail pass might be a significant cost up front, but when you take into consideration everything that's included, it really can be very good value.
Yeah, and any which way you can save a bit of money in Switzerland is absolutely worth looking at and considering. And I'm thinking, if somebody, if you're planning a 7 to 10 day trip to Switzerland, and you're thinking about having some of those scenic train journeys and mountain excursions, certainly having a look at the rail pass, depending on what you include, I think is really important. But how would you, if somebody was just going to Switzerland for 10 days, and I'm sure you've spoken to many people who are doing this, how would you suggest they look at including some of these train trips and some of these mountain excursions? How do they balance that in their itinerary? I guess, I mean, if it was Doug that was going, he'd just have 10 days on the train, so it'd be very easy.
Well, yeah, that's right. And that's the thing, like with that grand train tour of Switzerland, that itinerary, it's 8 days, but you're pretty much moving from one destination to another every day. So my personal preference, and what I recommend to most people, is to try just to pick out 3 or 4 destinations that you really want to go to. You want to have at least 1 full day, and in some cases 2 full days a minimum, in a destination, so you can do those mountain excursions and you're not just rushing from place to place. And the other thing too to keep in mind is that in Switzerland, because it's such a mountainous country, the weather can change very, very quickly. So there'd be nothing worse than, you've only got half a day and you wake up in the morning and, oh no, like the weather's atrocious. There's going to be no visibility from the mountaintop at all. And so you have to skip it. At least if you've got, 2 days, you've got perhaps the chance to see something the next day. Hopefully the weather will change. So, try not to try not to rush too much and cram too much into a 7 or 10 day itinerary. Use those 2 or 3 or 4 at the most bases, and you can use your scenic trains to get from A to B, which is a great thing. You're not adding extra time to your itinerary by using those the scenic trains. They're part of your transport from A to B, so you can easily combine those with some of those mountain excursions.
And I love it and enjoy it, and just it does take your breath away. It is a beautiful, beautiful country, that's for sure. Now, if anybody's I always end the podcast with the same question. So if somebody's listening to the podcast and they're thinking, I quite fancy experiencing some of these train journeys and mountain excursions in Switzerland, what would be the one tip that you would share with them, something that they should keep in mind if they're planning that sort of trip?
It's probably not really a tip as such, but it's just, I don't know, something to keep in mind, that if you're going to Switzerland, be prepared to be amazed, I guess. Just when you think you've seen the best view ever, another one is waiting around the corner and it'll blow your mind even more.
Oh, no, I love that. It's true. It's absolutely true. It is beautiful. And I don't think there's any train ride that I've taken that I've gone, oh, that's lovely. That's pretty. Even going from our parents into Zurich along Lake Zurich is pretty. That was just our regular commute to go into Zurich. And, there you're sitting there going, oh, this is amazing. It's so beautiful. And it is a lovely, lovely country. Are you going back again this year, Carolyn, to visit?
Absolutely, yes. I'll be back there again in autumn again, which last year I went in autumn for the first time, and it was just incredible, the colours of all the leaves changing, and it was a beautiful time of year to go. So I'm heading back there again in September and October this year.
Excellent. I'm sure you're going to absolutely love that. Well, thanks as always for joining me on the podcast, Carolyn. It's lovely to chat with you.
Thank you, Tracy. It's a pleasure to be here again.
So you can find, I'm going to get some photos of Carolyn. We're going to put them in the show notes. So if you want to check out some of the places that Carolyn has chatted about, we'll put them in there for you to look at. But also do check her website out, holidaystoSwitzerland.com. She's also got a excellent podcast, Fellow Podcasters of the World Unite, Carolyn, and is on Instagram and on YouTube as well, so I will put links in there. If you have been to Switzerland or are planning a visit to Switzerland, leave us a message on SpeakPipe. I will pass that to Carolyn as well. You never know, she could get back to you. But as always, I will leave all those links in the show notes, globaltravelplanning.com/episode 90. But until next week, happy global travel planning for myself and Carolyn.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favourite podcast app, because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.